So we're going to talk a little bit about raising our butterflies and releasing them. So we sort of do two species. We're mainly doing this for the monarchs because we're trying to help them because they're endangered. We also do it for black swallowtails. I think mainly because there are so many black swallowtails that visit our yard, and we have so many caterpillars. And you want to leave some of them for the birds to eat. So if you bring them all in, that's also not good. So we use our screen porch because when you're raising and releasing butterflies, you want as natural a habitat as you can. Like, you don't want to bring it into your house because the environment and the temperatures are different than they would be outside. So the closest for us on our property, this is sort of the safest and closest place, and we can monitor them and feed them. So we have black swallowtails, and right now we have 63 that are either as caterpillar going into chrysalis, or are they already in chrysalis. And the thing about black swallowtails is there are certain plants that they eat, and those plants are in the carrot family. And in our garden, we have some of those plants. We have fennel, which seems to be their favorite. We have rue, and we have golden Alexander. The challenge is when the black swallowtails come, they tend to eat all of the plant, like all of them, and then we run out of food for them. So that's kind of where we are approaching now. Like, I'm hoping that we have enough food to get them through their process.
It's like my family. Come and eat everything.
It's actually stressful, and you can't just go out and buy more plants from a nursery, because even though they may say that they're certified organic, and they may be, but there's probably some kind of chemical in that plant that will kill the caterpillars. And a couple of years ago, we had about 65 black swallowtail caterpillars, and we had run out of fennel. So I won't name the store, but we went to a store that had certified organic fennel, and we put them in our cage, and within 2 days, all of our caterpillars had died.
Oh, wow.
So that's a part of our challenge, is what do we have, what can we provide for? So I'm really careful of that. So in these cages, careful.
Sorry. Oh, yeah.
If you can zoom in, just on this little top,
God, I didn't think about that.
there's a black swallowtail that's gone up that still looks like a caterpillar,
But it's going to change
but it
soon.
hasn't formed its chrysalis yet. And the other two are in chrysalis. And what's interesting about black swallowtails is the color of their chrysalis changes with their environment. So because this cage is close to greenery right outside, they have decided to be green chrysalis.
But there's a brown one.
But there's a brown one, and oftentimes this cage is in a different location, and all of them are brown.
Yes. And here they are. So the other thing, you know, if you're raising caterpillars, you have to be comfortable with cleaning up caterpillar poop, which is just really vegetable mass. So,
So here we have chrysalis on this. We have the large caterpillars, and if you see this little black one, that's a very young one.
Okay, so that's it,
That
right?
little one, but that one still is probably a week old.
and then here are these are getting bigger. Within the next 3 or 4 days, they'll go up and form their chrysalis, and these are the green chrysalises.
But what's really different about black swallowtails versus monarchs, because every species has their own characteristics, is they're kind of unpredictable as to how long their process is. Generally, it's about 2 weeks from caterpillar to chrysalis, and then generally 2 to 3 weeks for chrysalis to come out. However, because
The butterfly to come out.
for the butterfly to come out. However, because there are sort of there are 2 bursts, or sort of 2 times when this happens throughout the season. Half of these chrysalis will stay in chrysalis and overwinter, and then come out next spring, and then they will repopulate the species. And you have no idea when that's going to happen. And sometimes it may take 2 years for them to come out. So they're very complex, and they understand their environment. So I think it's a reflection of us, perhaps, to look at wisdom and nature and nurture and what that means. And like, do we know everything? No. And perhaps other species know a lot that we're not aware of.
Oh, that would take some humility on our part.
It does.
That's a growth opportunity for humanity.
And then that's why it's very important in our natural environment to leave your gardens in the winter, not to tear them down, because there are caterpillars that have formed chrysalis that are in our garden, and if we tear them down and put them in the garbage, then we're killing billions and billions of butterflies
For next year.
for next year. And that's why another reason why we're seeing a decline in our insect populations. Or to leave your leaves somewhere in your garden, because a lot of the caterpillars will go under the leaves and form their chrysalis, and we have no idea that they're there.
And how's this for brilliance? In the fall, everyone has usually some sort of group of people who come. They take all of your leaves. They're blown off. They're put in trash cans. They're sucked up and they're taken away. So then the next year, it's like, oh, to get things started, I'll need to go get some fertilizers and enrich my gardens. When in fact, the decomposing leaves
Already there.
become incredibly rich earth that are filled with all the nutrients that you need. So we're doing something unnecessary. We're getting rid of next year's fertilizers. So we do composting of year after year. We put lots of our leaves in some wire cages in the back, and then Karl goes and digs out the bottom of the decomposing leaves, which are is now rich, nutrient infested earth.
So I harvest that soil and then I put it back into the gardens, and it's here.
Earth provides everything that everything needs, but we think we can do better. So we take it away, we move it, and then we're depriving everything around of what they need. And then we have to put it back in the form of chemicals, which is expensive and bad for Earth.
Yes.
Yeah, and bad for us too.
And time consuming.
Yeah. And does this make any sense? It's like insanity.
And yes, the other insanity. But Karl says he loves that, humans, we think we're the top of the food chain, we're the top of the, the intellectual, talented species on the planet. And Karl goes, so how many of us can go into a chrysalis and come out 2 weeks later and fly away? Now there's something talented and there's something special. And, I think we get it. There's so much, I think nature, if we really listen and look at our place in nature, it's humbling, that there's, I'm 73 and it's just like, oh, our swamp chestnut, which has been here for a couple hundred years, will be here when I go. And there's something just adjusting and orienting to that and comforting. We call him Chester, and it's like Chester's gonna be here. And the people who built this house lived, raised their family here, and died here. They died in this room we call the green room, and it's right by our tulip magnolia, and it's just like that's where they were. And I went, I don't think that's going to be a bad place eventually, but I will be able to look out and see, I'm not going today.
Thank you. Yeah.
But I'll see nature, and I'll see Tula, who's out there. So now I'm gonna do another topic. Is that all right?
It is, but just really quickly.
Yes.
So Chester, our chestnut oak tree, is the host plant for 550 species of butterflies and moths. So if you can only have one thing in your yard, have an oak tree. Oak trees provide the most.
Okay, and what about the other trees? How much does the average other tree?
That's all in Doug Ptolemy's book. You can look up your tree.
I have to
and
go
it
look it up.
says,
Okay.
No, we're going to provide you with one of those, so you can do your
thank
research.
you.
But some trees like the eastern red cedar, which actually is not a cedar, it's a juniper. There are actually no cedars native to this part of the United States. But it's only the host to one, a juniper butterfly. But it's beautiful, but it also provides habitats for birds and berries and things. Another example is American hazelnut, which is a small sort of shrub. So if you think it's a small shrub, maybe it wouldn't be that effective. It provides food for about 275 butterflies. Or like blueberries are native. Blueberries are really high in the food chain. I think it's over 100 species that it supports. So those are also
Including me.
including you.
And me too.
So it's also something there's so much to think about and so much to know, which is so exciting. or anxiety ridden, depending on what type of person you are. But
Yes.
but
Just one at a time.
but just one at a time. And like for me, every year I try to learn maybe 10 new plants, or in the wetlands when I walk. It's like, what is this? And and then I learn what it is, and then I remember it. I don't try to know every single plant in the wetlands at once. But I do know the invasive ones.
So even one of the smartest people in the world has to learn a little bit at a time.
Well, I don't know, but it's more exciting. It gives me something to look forward to. And then I decide, can I have that in our garden? And if I can have it, how do I get it? And I'm not going to collect things from a state park because it's illegal. Like, I'm not going to go in the wetlands, in the James River Park system, and dig up something. So oftentimes I order it from a place in Minnesota.
But see, you can see the holes in carnata leaves. We brought them in. We brought these in as eggs. So then here is